And I have heard that most people are either vaccinated or have some immunity
Mhm.
from having had it, so.
I'm Maddie, by the way. We probably
Oh,
met
sorry, I
virtually on
haven't done that.
some of the other
Okay.
meetings.
Might be. Good to meet you.
Yeah, now everyone's in person. It's like a new world we're entering into. Most of the other boards have gone back to in person, except for this one. It's slow going.
We opt not to drive our cars.
Right, exactly. There you go. I was telling Leah, I was like, I think I'm running late. She's like, oh, I'm doing virtually. I was like, oh, okay, well then everyone's just gonna have to wait for me. But I was not late.
Computer notes that I didn't find my charger, so I came from work.
Are you?
It's the stream. Yeah, I was just making sure the stream worked. It does. It's always on a delay though. So it captures like the end of our comments.
Yeah. Well, I know Nicole wanted to use AI to get 2 minutes, and she using it.
Yeah,
Chat
yeah,
GPT.
seems to be working.
Just takes the audio transcript and
Mm-hmm.
makes minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
she's a big AI, she's got like a female group that like advocates for women using AI. So she's a big AI.
until I tried a real simple quiz. I asked it to tell me about Long's Peak,
Mm,
and it got basic information on it. It said it was 8.5 miles round trip. It's 14. And it said you gained
Interesting.
2,000 feet. You actually gained 7,000 feet.
Huh.
No, 5,000 feet. So it was way off. So if you were going to go climb Long's Peak and you use that for information, you think, oh, 8.5 miles, that's not bad.
2,000 feet.
Yeah. Different than 14 miles.
I had a thought today about using it because people are just so busy at work that they need to write down their field visit notes. And I was like, maybe I should just do a speech to text in the car on the way home to take all of their notes and use AI to like try to organize them a little bit.
Oh,
And then they don't have to sit down for 2 hours and write it all down.
well, the phone has the phone has features
Exactly.
that would just trust me, doesn't always get it right. Substitutes words that can be embarrassing.
So for those of you online, we're just waiting for a few more, we're waiting really for Melody to come in person. We do have quorum. Maybe we'll give Melody a couple more minutes, and then if she doesn't. Oh, I hear her. She's coming. I am. You've got quorum with those in the room and online, so when you're ready and settled, you can start.
We can call it to order now, because the first thing is the informational item,
6:48.
so.
Well-
Sounds good to me.
Actually, your roll call, public comment on non-agenda, and Mayor Billy wanted to make a public comment on non-agenda before you
Okay.
technically get to Godot. Do you want me to do roll call? Is that helpful for you, Melody? So
I mean, I don't know that we ever usually do it out loud.
do you want to know who's online?
Yeah.
So you have trustee Sterling online and Chris Larson as well as Thea. And then we have Mayor Billy, who would like to give public comment on non-agenda item, and then we'll come back on for rights of nature, and then Beckett and ET from Godot. So, Billy, do you want to get started with your public non-agenda items?
Yeah, you bet. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, how are you? I just wanted to let you know, you may know already, or you may not, but trustee John Mountain resigned last Tuesday, so I just wanted to let folks know that. And on November 21st, we're scheduled to decide whether or not we're going to appoint or go to an election. So just want to put that bug in everyone's ear. One way or the other, whether we appoint or go for an election, we hope people will step up. I think some of you are eligible, to do something like become a trustee. Some of you have been, and some of you may not be, but whether it's for appointment or an earlier election or, for the big election in April, there will be 5 seats opening up and, folks running for reelection, but at least one totally open seat. And if not, as well as the second one. So, just wanted to let everyone know that. And, we will, again, we'll discuss it as a board on November 21st, and then folks can act or not act accordingly. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Billy. So anybody, they are interested in helping out, keep your ears out. All right. So our informational item.
Beckett, ET, that's you.
Hi, everybody. Can you see us okay?
Hey,
Yes.
hi all.
They can't see you because the computer just faces me, so they can just hear you.
Okay. As long as something, one of the two is working. My name is Beckett. I'm here with ET. I think everyone at this point should have at least heard whispers about the visual identity work that we're doing with the town of Nederland. So we are just here today to answer any questions. If you haven't heard about it, I can give you the 2-minute rundown on it. And then we have a few more focus groups we'd like to shill for and tell you what our November is going to look like. Miranda, is there anything else you need us to cover?
I can just go over a quick little background for you all. So the town of Nederland received a Colorado tourism grant a couple of years ago and the purpose of that was kind of stage 1 of tourism management. So it's not about bringing in more tourism. It's about managing what's already here. Members of SAB participated in that. I believe Melody was at our workshop. We talked about it in various SAB meetings, and what came out of that were some long, short-term, medium-term goals. One of which was to work on a creative identity campaign and branding. So it's from the reimagined destinations that really opened up the doors for us to apply for a tourism management grant that focused on really that identity and kind of, again, the point is not to bring more tourism. The point is really to acknowledge that they're here. And so through branding and creative identity, we can really explain to tourists, hi, welcome to Nederland. Here's who we are. Here's what we expect of you. Here's how you best engage with our community and really set the tone. And ideally, the goal is that this branding and identity campaign really carries through everything that the town of Nederland works on, because it becomes kind of this thematic framework in which we operate to make sure that, the projects we take on mirror that of our creative identity and branding. So again, 2 more sessions. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up for one and you're interested, there's one tomorrow and then one on Saturday. So we'd ask you to sign up for those. Not the last time, like if neither of those work, we'll come back for more feedback as we continue forward in the process, but would great to see Sav. I know Melody's done one. I don't know if Leah's done one. Nicole's kind of a part of our key committee. So we're starting to see the SAB, the sustainability, but obviously you as residents too. It's not just even your involvement in this board, it's your connection to town. So please come if you can. And there's a link, I put it in the email, where you can go and sign up through their kind of calendar invite system that you're going to attend one of those sessions.
Actually, I have a question
Yeah.
for Godot.
Sure.
it's-
Can you all tell that Miranda has that elevator pitch down at this
Uh-huh.
point? Thank you, Miranda. Sorry, go ahead.
My question is there going to be research on how Nederland is currently perceived? What do people currently think of us? Think we're just a party town that had dead guys wandering around for a while, or?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair question. Short answer, yeah, absolutely. A lot of our focus is because, with a campaign like this, or no, I shouldn't say campaign, with a visual identity like this, 90% of it is really for the town. And 90% is what needs to reflect them, that they need to get behind. It needs to be usable and genuine and respectful and all of that stuff. That other 10% are the outside view, right? So, of course, the peak-to-peak towns and things, Boulder. And then outside of that, yes, we are doing work with that. It's not as formal as the focus groups we're running with the 225 citizens of Nederland, but we are a local Boulder-based industry, and I think we've all lived here for about 2 decades as well. So we've got we can speak with some authority for how we Flatlanders see ya.
Okay, thank you.
Open to other suggestions if you want, but yeah, I think this is 90% about Ned, and Boulder be damned. Did that answer your question? It looks like maybe you were looking for something else.
No, that's pretty good. I think historically, I think Nederland has looked and looked at, I mean, I lived nearby in the 70s. And so, it was kind of a hippie town, party town, and just a exurb of Boulder. And I think we've established more identity now.
Mm-hmm.
Our resources, and I'm sure a lot of people don't realize what amenities we have. And, it's become a family town, although we're losing families and we're losing kids. So I think that's an issue. I do think there's historical things we're up against, but I think we can overcome that.
Absolutely. This is we have a few mantras in this, but one of them is this is an opportunity for Nederland to define itself before people from outside kind of define it for you, sort of thing. A lot of pride, a lot of history in this. The other mantra is this is not an ad campaign. And if you hear pushback from the community or even on Facebook or whatever, please remind people that the goal here is not more tourists. It's defining the town, people visiting when they visit with respect, and going there for the right reasons. Cool. Miranda, you shared the link. I think we still have spots for the session tomorrow and then the one on Saturday. This whole thing, we still have intentionally not put pencil to paper whatsoever in this. This entire month is about ideation. So we're going to finish up October. We're going to take about a week to kind of lick our wounds. We learned the hard way that if you start a focus group at Very Nice Brewing Company at 4 o'clock, it ends at like 7:15 with a fantastic hangover the next day. So we're going to lick our wounds. We're going to pull together some alpha options, and then the focus groups in November will be more focused on the visuals and like the tangibles. So we're not talking with our hands quite so much.
Have the November ones been released yet, or that will come after? Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably, we need to meet with Miranda, see when Peter's coming back from his honeymoon and what all the different meetings are, but we'll probably follow a same strategy, which ultimately ended up being just kind of making them random because we couldn't guess people's work schedules. We want to hear from people that have 9-to-5 jobs. So we don't want to do them on Tuesdays at 2, all that kind of thing. And they have been wonderful focus groups. I think we're probably up to about 85 or 90 people that we've chatted with in various forms, Miranda. So thank you for continuing to help drive that.
That's incredible. Very cool.
I'm going tomorrow, so I look forward to it.
Maddie's going tomorrow.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, we will see you there. And did you get our location change? We're going to the train cars, which is a shame because Diner Bar is a hoot, but it was too much of a hoot for us to be playing with sticky notes and stuff. We'd look like those geeky focus group people. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Melody, Mayor Billy was hoping we could go to rights of nature first. I just kind of threw all the discussion items like on there, not in any order, but since Mayor Billy's still on, he would love to start there.
Is anybody opposed to that?
I was hoping no.
Then let's start there.
So maybe I'll just do a quick overview. So if you all recall, you know, you had started with the rights of nature, and this is the guardian kind of appointment section of how the guardianship works. And you had drafted a resolution. It went to the Board of Trustees. It did not. The Board of Trustees wanted to see some amendments and really identified that Mayor Billy would be the right person to work with you all on those. So he worked alongside Attorney Madsen and Attorney Ladd. Attorney Madsen is our town attorney, Attorney Ladd is our water rights attorney. And they came up with the draft that was provided to you all. It was sent to Alan and Rich, who did not have any concerns. And so now it's just time to discuss and then hopefully bring it to the board. But Billy, do you have anything you want to add to kind of the changes you made or any comments? Did say to text him when we were getting close, so maybe I need to text him.
No, you're good. Let me just switch.
Okay.
Bluetooth, 'cause it's not very good. Okay, just a sec. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just had talked, I just, kind of learning what I've learned about the whole rights of nature, which, I think at its foundation is a great thing. And I totally agree with the intent in every way. But I think there was just along the way, there's been some concerns about the potential just unintentional challenges or whatever consequences that could happen along the way. So what we really wanted to do is look at it and make sure we're specific with words and just clear on expectations and on, the role and the expectations of the guardians really being the SAB, as you'll see, the guardian is the SAB, and the guardian subcommittee is the two people that SAB nominates to be the folks that specifically work on investigation and reports. And we feel real strong we feel real confident in the strength of Alan and Rich, with their expertise and as well as Rich's legal expertise, to really do this justice and not cross any lines, but we just don't know what can happen into the future. So a lot of it was about just putting the right kind of language to be specific to any limits about Guardian's ability to somehow bypass the BOT and recognize that it's just the BOT remains sovereign, and that these reports are very valuable data points, and often will very much inform or drive what is decided by the BOT in now and into the future, and that is really kind of the primary thing. And there was also kind of what are we going to do with the report, how often, those kind of things we also talked through and I think outlined. So that was my motivation and our motivation. And do you have any questions?
Or Alan, do you have anything?
No, I think it's real straightforward and we can work with it. I do think it's good to define things for going forward. I think Rich and I are just looking at an annual report. And as you pointed out, we're a subcommittee of SAB. We send a report to BOT and we're an advisory board. That's the key thing.
Thanks, Alan.
Melody, I realize that we set this as a discussion item, but I would imagine that if people felt comfortable enough, you could move it to an action and vote to recommend approval. So that way you could move on to the, I guess, kind of the thought was like, let people discuss it, but if there was a desire to say this is good to go to the BOT, you could do that tonight.
I think it's a good idea.
You'd have to make a motion to move it to an action item then.
And I'd support that. Does anybody want to make a motion to make it an action item?
I'll make that motion. That we vote on it, vote on sending this to BOT for approval.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Right. The secretary can choose who was first with that. So we'll call the vote. Patty,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes,
Chris,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
and myself as a yes. So now it's been moved to an action item. So now if we are ready to move it to the BOT, we need a motion to recommend that the BOT pass the resolution.
so moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Maddie. And we'll call the vote again. Maddie,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes,
Chris,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So that passes and we'll go to the BOT. Do we know what meeting agenda?
No, probably not until December. It's a little heavy. So the board's not meeting on the 7th, they're only meeting on the 21st, for an official meeting. So probably the second meeting in December.
Okay.
Once I know though, I'll email you all because it's always really helpful to have staff members present when things like this are going before the board.
Mhm. Definitely, and hopefully Alan or Rich can make it for sure. I'll try to be there as well. Any other thoughts on rights of nature before we move on?
I'll just say thanks a bunch. Appreciate all your work on this and your patience as we work through these edits. And at this point, I don't know, I didn't pass it by the BOT. So other than Nicole, I don't know if any other trustees have even seen this version, but thanks for your patience and thanks for your work.
Yeah,
And,
thank you, Bill.
have a good meeting.
thanks for your support.
All right, so we can go backwards then to our first discussion item, the subsystem design by the CU students.
Yes, I wanted to provide, they're not here, but I wanted to provide a little context because you probably are like, what is this email? What's the
Yes.
service? So these CU students called me just like out of the blue and they said, we've selected Nederland for our project. And this is a project only. So they're using Nederland as a project and the area of their focus is recycling electronics and creating a system or basically a storage system for electronics. So their scope had already been set. They knew what they wanted to do. It was just a matter of where. And they were like, could Nederland use this? And basically what I told them is once a year at town cleanup, we have someone who can take hard to recycle electronics. And that's a popular, I mean, that truck fills up entirely. And so sure, it would be awesome if there was an all year round opportunity to take your laptops and your computers and all of those electronics and drop them off somewhere. So in essence, they're designing something for us that sure, we could later take on to get funding for, but really what we're doing is just helping these CU students with their project by answering some of their questions. And so they've been talking to Cody from Boulder County to get some data from them. I've sent them a lot of materials, but they're asking that you take their survey to give them some more feedback. I think it's kind of cool that they selected Nederland, but nothing comes of this. It's not like they're going to link us to funding or anything like that. They're really just using us as their area of focus for their project.
So they're not actually going to have anything going on at the transfer station.
No, so they actually talked to Cody because they wanted to design it there at the transfer station.
Yeah.
And Cody said, basically, if this became a reality, we don't have the space. So they were texting me tonight and I said, sure, the old town shop or the town shop lot up by the transfer station could work, because what they're looking at is dropping basically a large storage container that has lockers inside, and you would go in and you would get a code to your locker, like Amazon lockers, and you put it in. We talked about weather and some of the challenges with something like that, but the only difference between the town shop lot and the transfer station is that locks at night. Where this storage unit, we're not gonna install a fence for this, so it would have to have additional securities because it wouldn't be behind a locked gate. But tonight I told them, just go ahead and switch your location for the sake of your project
Mhm,
to this area.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, what they give us really could turn into something that if we're interested in, we start to secure funding for, but this is really just kind of a fun project for them.
Mhm.
And so but if you haven't taken the survey, it's super quick, and it just gives your feedback of like, do you also think this is kind of cool? Like, would you be interested in seeing something like this? So that's a little bit of the context behind that email. They were hoping to have some subsystem designs for you to look at, to tell them which one you like, but didn't have all the pieces ready for tonight. So I'll probably continue to send out emails with where you can give links to feedback from this group. I'm guessing this is just their semester project that we'll need to wrap up here in a couple weeks anyway. So probably not something we can talk about often at the meetings. But again, just think it's kind of cool. That's why when they reached out, I was like, please go ahead and use Nederland. Like, we'd love to see what you come up with. And it would be an interesting ad if there was a way to financially make it work.
Mhm,
Because I do,
definitely.
and the data they were able to get. So she texted me today and told me that they determined, oh, I thought she had said, so she was gonna send me how much that they had identified were recycled in electronics. I don't have it yet. She's gonna
Mhm.
forward it to me, because they were able to learn that they estimated 100 cubic feet of electronic waste material per month. And that's using a lot of the IT refresh data that came from a one-time event.
Mhm.
So pretty interesting what they're doing.
And
Yeah.
where is that volume coming from? The county?
That comes from the IT refresh data for when we had town cleanup. And they then take, a huge truck full of electronics. So we're kind of looking at like, well, what would it be monthly? And they were talking to me about, what if there was a cool, storage container, and how often would we, maybe look to have it removed? How often would IT refresh come up? And so they're basically going to turn around and tell us, if we were to pursue this, this is their recommendation for how the container would look, how it would be managed, what are the things we would need to consider for implementation, and then also like how often it would be emptied.
Mhm.
So kind of cool.
Have they connected with Charm at all?
They did talk about Charm in one of their emails.
Okay.
So yes, they seem pretty well connected. I just hear from them like randomly every once in a while. So that's why I'm like, this is not like when we get grad students and they're very involved in what we're doing. It's like they're kind of on their own and they ask me random questions. But I'm excited when they do finally have their subsystem. I'm excited to send it to you all. And my guess is they'll maybe ask for you to vote or give them some feedback on those designs.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
And there's just they're I believe they're obtaining their bachelor's degree from Colorado School of Mines. So School of Mines students.
Mhm.
I don't really know how they picked this, but they're in a design course focused on improving waste stream management, specifically in terms of electronic waste.
And where is the survey?
I sent it in an email. I think Hannah sent it to you all directly.
Yeah,
And then I chimed in and was like, please, you should definitely take this. So I'm happy to resend it to this group.
Please do.
Yeah, so you can take that.
perfect.
I don't know about you folks, but I'm getting like 700 emails a day asking me for money.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we do too, even just at work. I thought you were gonna say for me.
You're a drop in the bucket.
Well, the Democrats, the wildlife fund, everybody.
All the things. Okay, so yeah, that's that team, and that's what that email was about.
Okay.
Kind of cool. Yeah.
I think it's super cool. I'd
Yeah.
love to see what they come up with,
Me
and
too.
take action on it if it makes sense.
So that's what we said, and I did say if their class capacity allowed, it would be cool if they could direct us to funding. Because they asked me what I'd love to see as one of the outcomes, and I just said, it would be neat if you left us with next steps. Like, you're not gonna obviously get us there, but tell us where we should go next, what you believe to be funding opportunities. And it sounded like they should be able to integrate that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, one thing is with that, county sustainability funding, this is one of those kinds of projects that is a good place for funding with. Okay. So we'll move on to the third item here under discussion, which is the plastic bag and polystyrene ban ordinance.
So I'll get us started, Leah, if you want to jump in, but we all talked to you about, the need to upgrade our municipal code. So our municipal code already has a plastic bag fee, but really needed some work. And so Leah and I started working on it, and we sent you the Google Doc, because for some reason when I downloaded it, the red lines weren't sticking. So we sent you access to the Google Drive where you can look at the ordinance that we amended. But what we're recommending here is a straight ban of plastic bags and obviously polystyrene altogether. And then we're saying for the bag fee that's specific to paper bags. So in essence, the way the ordinance reads is you can't even use plastic bags at all. Can't use styrofoam at all. Yep. And if you're going to allow bags, it has to be a paper bag, and then we charge the 10 cents. So basically change the ordinance around. So all of the codes are really specific to amending some of that language to make it clear that there is a straight ban here, and then there's the plastic bag fee. We'd like to try to get this as close to January 1 as possible. Obviously, we're cutting it pretty tight in the time in the year, but I think Leah and I are just looking for, do you like the edits? Are there other things you'd like to see happen? I wouldn't say this is ready to be voted on tonight. My recommendation is let us go talk to Attorney Madsen, make sure we're not missing anything in terms of a regulation or enforcement or even that straight up ban, and then come back to you with a true redlined ordinance for you to actually vote on. So I really think tonight we're just looking for feedback, but Leah, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I just want to add that all of that guidance is coming from the state legislature, passing the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act in 2021, effective January 1st, 2024. So we're not individually banning plastic bags and polystyrene, although we are choosing how to enforce that. So it's up to each municipality to decide how that gets enforced, and the state is not doing any of the collection of those fees. So that's why we're needing to spell that out a bit more. And so 60% of the fee should go to town, and then the retailer or food establishment keeps 40% of that fee to cover any additional costs that may incur.
Yeah, and I would say the bulk of these, to Leah's point, is just kind of tightening up the like, why are we doing this? Then there's a whole section regarding just the ban itself, and then a little bit of more clarity about how, our original code was actually pretty solid. It was just a matter of enforcement. We did put in here, we'd like to see the sustainability coordinator enforce. Understanding though, that's when that person comes online as a full-time staff member. And so of course it says, or their designee for the time being. But yeah, I mean, actually, I compared our plastic bag fee to another jurisdiction. It was the town of Eagle, and we basically matched like word for word, and they've said they've had no challenges with their ordinance. So I think it makes sense to leave ours pretty much the same, with just kind of that clarification that this is for plastic, for paper bags.
I do
And
have a,
Miranda, oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Miranda, our farmers markets and food trucks are exempt from that currently, correct? I think we left that out of the language.
Yeah, Leah, I changed around some of the definitions a little bit, but if I recall correctly, it still had a statement in here. Yeah, that it does not include farmers market or temporary events or restaurant or, I guess we need to check this. I put it under retail store because that's actually how Eagle had theirs defined, and not food establishment. Because technically a farmer's market establishment. But
I have a question on that page 4 at the very, very top. Paper bag means any bag made of paper product containing less than 140%. post-consumer recycled product, can you explain to me the 140?
Let me get to it.
I just don't know if I'm missing something or if that's a typo.
It should be 140, not 100, then, because it says not less than 140%. I stole this from Eagle, I'm not a plastic
So-
paper bag.
Yeah, and that's what's confusing to me, is when you buy paper products, they're like 50% post-consumer content, 70%, and I don't think you can have more than 100%.
So I saw somewhere in our normal code where we have, so this is our current.
And I also
language.
think maybe we should discuss, do we want to exempt recycled paper bags?
So this, our regular code says paper
not.
bag is 100% recyclable and contains at least 40% post-consumer recycled content.
Okay,
So I think
so
it just needs to
the
get
piece of the
changed.
sentence got left out.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me fix that.
Funny thing about paper bags, you know, is it's good if they're 100% recycled, they're made from 100% recycled. But then what do you do with the bag?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's not compostable. And I don't think it's even recyclable.
Some of them are not, some of them are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's very confusing.
Yeah.
Because I know when I go to the transfer station, I'll see people put newspapers in a paper bag. There's a sign there that says no paper bags. And the dumpsters have lots of paper bags.
I think, and Larry is the one who could correct me if I'm wrong. I think what the deal is the brown paper needs to go with the cardboard and the white paper goes with the mixed recycling.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't think there's anything out there that says that.
No, but that's why no paper bags in the recycling, but you can put newspaper in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think,
Okay, but that, changing that to what our old current ordinance says.
I
would
just made
fix
that.
that where
Yeah.
the paper bags have to be 100% recyclable.
Correct.
And at least 40% post-consumer
Yes,
content.
that's what I changed that to.
okay,
Now, does that mean if somebody I guess I'm struggling with the definition a little bit because I don't want it to read like, if you do 100% post-consumer bag, then you don't have to charge 10 cents. Cause a paper bag
Got it.
means all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And also a paper bag made of 100% recyclable materials and from 40% post-consumer content.
From a revenue generation perspective, would there be an argument to charge for any bag regardless of the makeup? So that would mean even if you're meeting if I'm getting this right, even if you're meeting the qualifications for that recycled paper bag, like you mentioned, you're still gonna get a fee for it. And then it's really easy.
So we're saying even if you meet this 100% recyclable, it contains 40% post-consumer recycled content, that's what we're charging you for. Are you saying just take out and just say 100%?
I'm saying, I don't want it to seem like if we're charging for a paper bag that is recyclable and post content, that a paper bag that's not that is not gonna get charged
Sure,
for.
sure.
And I'm just not sure if that's clear, and maybe that's a question for Attorney Metz. if
Okay, let me
that's
just mark that.
Clear or
Yeah,
not in
okay.
there.
I'm just gonna add a comment.
I guess that's what I was maybe trying to get at is like, maybe
Yeah.
not define what type of paper bag, just say any bag that's not.
I think the intent is to say that nobody's allowed to even purchase or give out paper
Right.
bags that aren't this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we want to define it, but maybe.
yeah, I'll ask her about it. See what
And
she thinks.
the state guidance and also EcoCycle, et cetera, don't define that necessarily. Recycled paper bags, that's as far as they define it, is still subject to the 10-cent fee according to state requirements for whatever that's worth.
I think
Yeah.
kind of what Maddie's getting at. Do we just say it's a paper bag, define what a paper bag is?
Sure. Right.
well, I do
Okay.
think we'll need to have good public information
Mm-hmm.
to clarify.
Right, I think where this went wrong was it didn't have, it sounded like it really never totally got implemented, but it's gonna take probably Sab and Leah's support. I mean, I know
Yeah.
BNF charges it, but in terms of getting even BNF to then reroute the way they handle it, because right now they give it to charity and they can give their percentage to charity.
So what I noticed though, at the beginning of the year, they put up the signs behind their registers, these big, these neon pieces of paper, 8.5 by 11, that said, starting January 1st, 2024, we're not gonna be able to offer plastic bags. This is by the state. And I think that when we told businesses, we're not gonna worry about enforcing it, for this little while, we're gonna rework some things and we're gonna go hard January 1st, that he kind of pulled back and was like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it till January.
Okay.
I can't say for sure,
Yeah.
but from my small interactions with Dan, I think that's what's going on. So I do think they're on board
Okay,
this time around.
okay,
I think what went wrong the first time around is we had an intern that was very disconnected from the community that was managing the program and was the one implementing it. And so there wasn't really any public buy-in, even though people wanted the bag fee.
yeah, okay.
But I think with the state momentum and everything, it's not gonna be nearly as hard as when
Yeah.
before we were one of the
Yeah.
first people doing it.
Oh, and we do, we put language, I think the biggest thing might be kind of the styrofoam. We do know some businesses that are using it. We did put language in here that basically says, if you bought it before January 1, you can continue to use it, but you cannot continue to purchase it.
Yes, and that's what the state's recommendation was
So,
too.
and I think Leah and I will need to talk in our next one-on-one, but I think starting to expose, because the timing of this ordinance might not hit exactly the ability to do it January 1, but I think we need to start exposing and being like, hey, we too, this is coming online. We too are gonna work on this. I mean, if you all approve it at your meeting in November, we could bring it to the board in December. It just means, because of the 30-day, it just means maybe we're looking at our implementation being January 7th or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
not the end of the world, still, but
No.
close. I'd like to still get it where it's an effective ordinance and in place no later than mid-January. So we only have a slight delay.
Is there someone from the town in communications that could make like a uniform sign for all businesses so that
Yep.
like everyone sees the same, like town of Nederland, we're charging this fee, and it's the same language at every single business.
Yeah.
Maybe have something underneath that says state statute.
Right.
Yeah, Peter could help, definitely, to get that designed.
Yeah, and then that doesn't put as much onus on the businesses to come up with the signage and the language and all of
Yeah,
that.
and we did that in COVID when there was like the mass organs. Like we went around town and was like, here's everything you need. This shouldn't be a hardship, but yes, you need to stop buying the stuff. I worry about, really making sure we can sit down with the businesses, especially like we're not seeing the plastic bags, but we're still seeing the styrofoam very much so. And so sitting down and talking to them about their vendors, maybe find, we have the data from other businesses, who their vendors are, and maybe just trying to make that network so that they can stop.
Does Pace have grants through their business program for paper? I can try to look it up.
Leah might know.
I don't think so.
I don't think, not for that particularly. They had some for things that like food delivery that doesn't apply to Nederland. But that doesn't mean they might not have those in place with the ban coming, but nothing that I've seen so far.
Okay.
And we worked on a few years ago, I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or what, a bulk grant of trying to buy compostable to-go-ware for a bunch of businesses, and it just was not a competitive application. It seemed like people wanted businesses to just kind of do it on their own. And applying for a grant to give money to businesses was a little hard of a sell.
But once the revenue comes up for this is so earmarked, and so no, we're not gonna buy paper bags, but we could buy in bulk. Or Leah had a great idea of like the reusable bag exchange where you like at the community center or the library, you could go, I've got 1,000, like you could go donate some of your reusable bags for those who need it. And so implementing some of those programs, I think the challenge is we'll just need to wait for that revenue to really start to come.
Yeah.
The fee, I guess, not even, but come in, and it will be kind of a line item that SAB really handles. So SAB would provide guidance on how, you know, of this list of how we use it, what's gonna make the most sense. We're really looking at I'll have to talk about this in other business, but looking at a couple different revenue streams so that SAB actually has money to do things with, finally.
Mm-hmm. And then to clarify, I'm still not finding it in here, but I think I remembered that, SNAP customers, like EBT customers,
Yep.
right, are not charged the 10
Yeah,
cents.
so there's this exemption that we have, whereas, yeah, we added no bag, a bag provided to a customer at no charge if the customer provides evidence that he or she is a participant in a federal or state food assistance program.
Okay, perfect. Anyone online have any questions or comments about the plastic and about this one?
I don't have any comments, no.
Polystyrene.
That's how when Leah's like, we should make a polystyrene, I was like, I don't have to spell that how many times?
Mhm.
It was a struggle, we got there though.
Copy paste, copy
I
paste.
was like, oh geez, here we go. So if you, yeah, I mean, if you all are good, what we would, like I said, what we would do is bring it back in like an actual ordinance format.
Yeah,
For you to look
and
at
we'll
with all
put
the
it
red
as an
lines
action
and-
item in November.
Yeah,
Okay.
Looks good.
cool.
Okay. So now I'll go back to my agenda here. And moving on, the energy goals for 2025 and PI's gap analysis. Assuming this,
I'm wondering actually if we could do the ME and V capstone next, just
Yeah.
because that's due Friday and the other one doesn't have a set time frame, just in case we run out of time.
yes, we can do that.
Great. So I'm gonna include the link to the draft in the chat here. Thanks, Maddie, for your edits, and Alan also for your response as well. So this was approved by the BOT, the proposal concept, not unanimously. There were some concerns about the money being used for this particular project, and I don't think this was discussed in the last SAD meeting. So just so you know, this is coming from the construction and demolition fees over the last few years, a portion of that to pay for this project if we are accepted. And if we are not accepted for this proposal, there is also a smaller program, professional development sort of internship. So just so you know, that's a piece that could come into play later if we're not accepted for this proposal. But this is due Friday. I would love to submit it by end of day Wednesday if possible. And Melody, I didn't see anything about a video this time around on the website or any of the proposal guidelines. So I'm not sure if that's required this time. Yeah, I couldn't get very far in the submission process without actually submitting. So hopefully that's not a surprise later, but I don't see anything in the requirements for a video.
They didn't talk about it in the informational meeting either.
Well, and it was something that it was brand new to last year. Last year was the first time they had done it. So maybe it just worked out well and they decided not to do it again, which is all fine by me.
Great. Yes, hope so. And if not, Melody, I will I will ping you later if we do have to do that. But great. So and Miranda, thank you for the visitor stats. I didn't see anything really specific to include for the proposal, so I sort of changed that language to we expect that we'll have increased traffic, but didn't state any specific stats. The one item that I want to ask about is the BOT wanted to make sure that we would get some kind of tangible expectations or estimation of what the revenue could look like in order to justify paying for this project. And Maddie, I think you mentioned, like, because we don't have any stats, we can't really say where we would be going, but I wanted to open that up for discussion if we do need to include something, kind of creating some parameters about our expectations there. But other than that, I'm just looking for feedback on the proposal, anything else to discuss before I finalize that with Miranda and Melody too, if you have any feedback.
Yeah, maybe I could just turn it over to Trustee Sterling a bit. Sorry to advocate or to be sincere part of the board. I agree. I think I found that feedback to be a bit confusing because it's like there's no way to quantify what you don't know. It's kind of like EV chargers. I'm telling the board you should charge for it, but I couldn't tell you how much money you're going to get out of it, but you should do it anyways. I mean, this feels very similar to me. And so I don't know, Nicole, do you think that it would be a big issue if there wasn't that kind of language added in? I mean, it doesn't feel right given just kind of some of the unknowns here and that they're studying revenue opportunities for us. They can't quantify it just now without that data.
Well, okay, so let me ask a couple of, questions just to make sure I'm clear. In sort of projecting potential revenue, there's always some assumptions that you're going to make, right? X number of visitors, and I understand that's part of the data that you're trying to get, but even if it was, some sort of educated guess, I think what the BOT was looking for was, okay, if you're going to put these sort of suggestions in and suggest them to us, how do you know that these are good how are you justifying that this is going to make revenue, right? Whether that's other municipality data or it's based off some of our certain demographics. I think that was the request. So not sure if I answered the question, but
My understanding, that would be part of the work that the students are doing in the project, right? Would be determining what the possible range of revenue is for, say, a ret tax, or the possible range of revenue for a park entrance fee or something like that, right? We're looking at what are the different possible sources of revenue, and then perhaps part of their product is a range of dollar amount of revenue that could possibly generate.
Right, because I don't think we can go into this proposal being like, your proposal to us better generate $30,000 in revenue. That's unrealistic. That's not fair to them. I mean, they need to come, but I think on the other end of that, if they come and say, you should charge park fees, they should have the data to say your park fees will translate into $15,000. So I feel like
yes,
the proposal maybe just needs to say, our expectation is that the final determinations come with an estimated revenue generation amount. But there were not projects to do set amount of revenue, which I felt like that's how some trustees were talking about it, is that they want to know here and now before applying, how much money was this going to generate? And that's there's no way to tell that.
yeah, no, and I don't think that's practical. But the other thing I would say is that sure, it's great and all to sort of model out data. I mean, I can tell you, sure, you're gonna earn X amount of dollars if you do X. I think what's really important, and what'll continue to get to get the BOT buy-in, is that it's really it's underneath it is really good foundational data, our data, and I get that that's part of the discovery and everything, but it can't just be a genericized, oh, this is how you can make money through sustainability and through Parks or Rec or whatnot. Folks are really going to make sure that this is tailored to us.
Yeah, so based on that data, Miranda, that you sent me for visitorship, we have general numbers of how many people come through town during different times of the year. And then I'd have to go back and look at the exact stats, but I think it was typically visitors make over 100K per year. So knowing the income of most of our visitors, how many visitors, what they're interested, and then maybe modeling out a few scenarios of what that could look like. And I think that's pretty well spelled out in the proposal, but and then of course, looking at similar communities that have maybe gone a little farther than we have and created some revenue, and what does that look like for them that we could maybe build off of? Does that sound right to everyone?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry.
When I talk to local businesses, like restaurants, for example, I was in Busey's the other day, we were in Busey's the other day, and they were really glad to see fewer people. They said, we've been so overwhelmed. It's nice we can finally catch our breath. So I wonder if there's any way we could help to even that out so that everybody isn't jammed in on Saturday and Sunday, and maybe try to have people come up during the week. Although this summer, it seemed like every day of the week, town was jammed. So I don't know, evening out for tourism. And the other thing that it seems if we really want to be sustainable, we've got to look at transportation. Can we get people out of their cars? You know, can we do a better job of saying, you know, when the Hesse shuttle's running on a weekend, you can get a free bus out of Boulder. We'll take you right to the high school and then have them loop back through town before they go to Boulder. But everybody's we're gonna just have more people driving up in their cars like they have been. That's not sustainable. And so I think, to me, there has to be some sustainability goal here, aside from revenue. So maybe it's one way to look at it is, how can we better publicize and utilize RTD? You know,
Yeah, that's a great idea. There was a Boulder County event recently where they had incentives if you took public transit, carpooled, or biked as opposed to drove a car. And so you'd be entered into a raffle or you'd get something in exchange. So I'm sure we could, yeah, I think that would be a great idea to incentivize people. If you take the bus, you get, I don't know, some kind of special something at the visitor center or a discount at a restaurant or whatever that looks like.
I'm gonna put my carousel hat on for a second and say a free ride on the carousel.
Yes.
there you go.
Ooh, yes.
And
I
I think
love it.
maybe there's some kind of, I don't know if it's already talked about, I know it was talked about previously, how to get people to walk around town.
Yeah,
Here's-
park and then walk.
Here's a walking route,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see the mining museum, the carousel, go down to the reservoir on foot,
Yeah.
over through Chipeta, you know, so it's activities that are sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's not automobile driven,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And well, and part of that is the wayfinding. I mean, I feel like I've been waiting on wayfinding for 6 years now. I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but you know, it's like the wayfinding to get to that main trail that comes from here, the community center, down through town, around the reservoir, all that, you know, so that it's signed, it's noticed, people understand it's there. People have a big key so they know where to park and then walk on the trail down to the restaurant and, yeah.
Maybe they want to stop in at the library,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera.
It seems like if we're selected, the students have like a pretty big bandwidth to work on the projects too. Just, I sat in on the info session.
Mm-hmm.
And like they essentially, it seems like kind of work for you as a consultant over the summer
Mhm.
when they're not in school. So they have time to really like tackle these kinds of projects. And, you know, someone asked a question about, I think they were in like the Silverthorne area and they're like, well, we don't really know what kind of project, but we have an idea and they encourage you to submit anyways. I think kind of like we are now,
Mm-hmm.
and then just work with the student to refine that scope,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is also encouraging, like hearing all these ideas.
Yeah.
So.
Because I mean, right now, just like with the ski area, we have a lot of people go to Hesse, hike to Lost Lake, get in their car, go home.
Yep.
They don't go into Nederland.
Yep.
And then in the winter, you know, the same thing's true with Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
They just go up to Eldora and then they go home. Now, some do stop
Mm-hmm.
at Busey's or whatever. But maybe, you know, there's a winter piece of this too. Try to get people to stop when, you know,
Definitely.
the businesses really need more business in the winter.
Yeah. The tourists stop way more than the ski traffic does. This,
Yeah.
a lot of the ski traffic is in and out, in and out, in and out.
Mhm.
Well, and I think I almost wonder, to your point about, servers feeling rushed, and I know I've had the same comment from 3 different people at 3 different businesses when I was a customer at them this week. It's been slow this week. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
We get this 2-week reprieve. I heard all 3 of them say
Yeah.
it. And I wonder if part of Godot Communications and what they're doing, got the sense of it in our focus group, but I'm sure it's repeated in others, that we somehow want to communicate to our tourists to slow down, take a breath, and then, even though our servers have 100 customers, maybe they won't feel that way so much. Maybe they'll be able to take a breath themselves and feel a little better about all the tourists in the business, because we know we want them there, right?
Mhm.
We know that the restaurants are having a hard time hiring people, so they're probably understaffed, so that probably contributes to the exhaustion.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't want less customers, even though they're saying it, that's not what they really mean. They want mellower, calmer, kinder customers.
Yeah.
And
And it seems like many of the restaurants are closed on the same days, right? Like they're and like Mondays. Like maybe there's a way that they could stagger that a little bit and not, not all be closed at the same time, so that people are spreading it out a little bit more.
Mhm.
Well,
and I didn't
go
really
ahead.
have, I thought it was great.
Yeah. Agreed.
Great. I pulled a lot from last year, so kudos to those who wrote last year's proposal also. If anyone has any further suggestions, if you would kindly throw those in tomorrow, by end of day tomorrow at the latest, I'd love to finalize and get that out before the Friday deadline.
And Mia, I know you've told me a million times, so sorry, one more time. Remind me, so it'll go before them, there's this opportunity for them to say, I'm interested in your proposal, but I'm not so sure, or do they pick and then you fine tune the scope? Like, is there an opportunity to meet with them to try to verbally add to our application, or it's just?
A little bit.
Okay.
So there's usually a meet and greet,
That's right. You
ceremony.
went to that last year.
Yeah, I've been to it
A million
every
times.
year.
Okay.
Hopefully someone else will go this year. But yeah, so you kind of meet and greet,
Okay.
all the projects are there.
Okay.
Everybody's got a table, and all the students walk around to all the tables and talk to who they're interested in. And so at that point, you can engage with the students, and if they're really saying, oh, I'd like to do your project, but I actually want to go down this route instead, at that point, you can have a personal conversation and say, yeah, that would totally work for us, or no, that wouldn't work for
Okay.
us.
Cool.
And so
that
then
would-
the students are aware.
I have a
It should be on the
schedule, yeah.
calendar.
When is that?
August through December is the application and selection. I don't know if they have the full, oh, they do. Okay, so November 17th would be the symposium.
Yes.
Is that what you went to?
Yes.
And then December 1st would be the finalists are notified. And then on December 8th, the students receive proposals.
So November 17th then
What
is
time?
when you
Do you
know.
have a time?
It's usually during the day.
Putting it on my calendar now, just so.
Although
maybe
there's
some people
something,
can provide you some support.
there's something else on the 26th that's a networking event. Is that maybe after?
That's
selection?
after selection.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, everything would happen before the end of the year. I'll send this to you, Miranda. These are the slides.
Yeah, and so then the students, after that symposium, get to go back to their advisor, talk through things, figure out what project they want to do, get in groups or do a solo project or whatever. And then I think they, at that networking event, we give them contact information so
Right.
they can reach out to us during that whole time. So like our capstone students in 2018, that kind of 2 weeks in between the symposium and picking their project is when we were kind of emailing and chatting back and forth with them about how they might want to define the scope of their project.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So that reminds me, Miranda, the only item that I really need from you for the proposal is what the contingency plan would be if, say, myself, Melody, and Maddie are all unavailable for some reason by the end of the year, or you something else, what that would look like for the students to be able to complete the project. And that's the very last item in the this
Is that just
document.
like, who are the fall, because I saw it's on the project lead, like who's the fallback project team? Is that
Yes,
really?
basically, or it could just be that you're the point person and that you would redirect to whoever's available, whatever that would look like, but
That's
they
exactly
need
what
some kind of,
something happened, they would come to me and then we would decide within our internal staff team
Mhm.
who was gonna be there. Is that enough? Can we say that?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It says a well thought out strategy, but I I think that's open to interpretation.
Well,
I'm sure there's.
as with
organization.
anything, we will pivot and go in a different direction. We'll be ready. I mean, maybe you could just add something to that. We've got a robust staffing structure. Robust,
Yeah.
I use that term really liberally there, but that we have the staffing, like even just the parks team, if Nikki had to get pulled in, we have the staffing for
Uh-huh.
other people to step in.
Yeah.
That maybe you say, Leah, the department head leadership would step in. That sounds more robust. There's only 7 of them.
Great. Oops, sorry, you all heard me typing. I'll add a couple sentences to the end there. Thanks, Miranda. And probably mention the town administrator would oversee that plan. Okay. I think my computer maybe froze. Are you all still there?
We are. It's been silent for like a whole minute. I was wondering what was
Okay.
happening.
Are we, I know the application and I think maybe Leah, energy goals? I don't know though, if everyone feels good about the application.
Yeah.
Here's maybe one thing I'll add, a lot of the conversation was, maybe just really quick on the finance. So Leah even was like, can we pay the students? And I was like, no. And then went back and did some magic with Rita and we determined the answer was yes. We have a bunch of C&D funds that we recently did an audit for, construction and demolition program. And we went back and we reached out to all of them and a lot of them we couldn't get a hold of that was like, hey, if you want your deposit, you need to file the paperwork. But in our email, we said, you could also choose not to file your paperwork and this goes to the Sustainability Advisory Board. And people were thrilled about that. So I want to talk about that in other business. And so long story short, we booked this $15,000. We're able to book about $15,000 that was money we didn't have. And so a portion of that is what's going to the students. I think some board members thought, well, is that how you want to spend your money? Like you don't get a lot of revenue streams. Is this really how you want to spend your money? And I think the feeling was, let's give this a shot, but let's still keep figuring out ways to build funds for SAB. And so that's what I'm going to talk to the board about tomorrow night is how do we make it so it wasn't this like one time, yay, SAB got money, but it can be this like continuous SAB got money and not just this one-off. So I would love to talk about that in other business, but that's why I think there were concerns about what will this actually do. But then the other question really from Trustee Corvalon was, you don't often get a lot of money. and this is how you want to spend it. So we hope that there's
Uh-huh.
some support and
We
wanting
need to
spend
pay
it this
people
way.
and boots on the ground to do
Yeah,
work.
we feel like ultimately paying them is this minor drop in the bucket for ideally what could come out of this, which
Yeah.
is new revenue streams.
Yeah.
But really, I appreciated that the board recognizes that you have to do a lot with nothing. And so how do we start to really build it so that you can be like boards like ProSab that have funding streams they can pull from?
Well, that's new too.
And a consultant would cost about 6 times as much.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely.
So I would, I
So
wouldn't
much
say
more.
that they were opposed. I think it was just not really fully understanding what was gonna come and then also
Yeah.
kind of questioning,
Yeah.
is this the best use? But ultimately, you don't need a full consensus on a board to
Mhm.
move forward.
Is
Mhm.
there opportunity if we're not selected to reallocate that still? Like, so it's still been earmarked.
So we're not gonna book it until 2024, because if we book it now and you don't spend it by the end of the year, it just dumps into the general fund,
Yeah.
the reserves. So we're gonna be strategic, and we might be able to book more. But
Mhm.
January 1, we're gonna book it, and then you're either giving about 10,000 of this to the students, or you're not, and then that's money you can decide how you'd like to utilize it.
Or the third option could also be, let's say we're not selected for this proposal. If we do the industry partnership, I can't remember what it's called, the new for this year capstone project, could be a smaller internship, and so that could be a smaller portion of that. But just wanted to throw that third option out there also.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it seems like we should be maybe looking at more college programs besides just like CU here in Boulder that would be interested in working with us, because we had the School of Mines that's doing this project, and I think there's probably other colleges and universities that are looking for places to do case studies or do projects, and I'd be open to having more than one college group of kids, helping us at a time if we had different staff members in charge of the different groups. So if anybody feels so inclined and has time to research that.
Well, CSU has an environmental studies.
Mhm.
I don't know what DU has.
They have several environmental programs. And the Denver Law School has an environmental law program. Few different things. All right, well, energy in 2025 then, I think is where we're on to next.
Yeah, so this is a continuation from the August SAB meeting where Partners in Energy presented their gap analysis about our energy goals and how far away we are, or close, depending on how you want to look at it. And they sent some additional information afterwards, which is in one of these attachments. The formatting is a little funky, but I don't know that we have to have anything really decided or fleshed out tonight. It seemed like the consensus at the end of the August SAB meeting was that we were going to stick to our original 2025 goal, even though we may come up shy. It was good to go for it either way. But really talking about where to focus those efforts. And so, just as a summary of what they sent us afterwards, they did provide what it would cost to, quote, fill that gap, which doesn't seem like probably the best use of that money, right? It's just like what recs we would have on paper, so to speak, to reach that goal, which isn't, I think, what we're really going for. It's what new renewable energy we would have. And so it outlined here is that there are significant opportunities on the commercial side, which in my mind is where we would leverage PACE, because that's a free resource to us and they've been doing a great job of getting rebates and things for businesses, as opposed to town fronting the bill for that for commercial properties using renewable energy. And then Andrew Bliss and the utilities department are currently conducting an audit on their water treatment facility, which is one of the largest users of energy and funding for town resources. So Once that's completed, which should be in the next month or so, I don't know the exact timing, but it's happening pretty quickly. If we can add solar to that particular facility, that will close a lot of the gap on the municipal side. So I know there's a lot in this document, but just wanted to continue that discussion so it didn't get lost in the shuffle. And yeah, hear any thoughts or any discussion on that front.
I'm glad to hear that there's a possibility of that department being able to go solar. It's interesting looking at the annual cost of Renewable Connect from Excel, because, a few years back, they were offering a program that was similar for no additional cost.
Yep.
And now they're charging a premium.
Yeah,
and
they said there was oh, sorry.
They've always charged a premium for, if you just want to sign up for wind or solar or whatever. But Renewable Connect was the one they offered several years ago for free. And they said, you just sign up and you'll probably get charged less than you would for the fossil fuel plan, but you won't get charged more. And now it's a whole different ballgame. They're trying to make money on it. Make a lot of money. Looks like. So,
Yes. And there, yeah, and there's a new one. They said there was a spike in 2020 on the prices, and that there is a new Renewable Connect 2.0 slated for late 2024, 2025, which again, we will be at the precipice of our goal at that point. That's supposed to be more cost effective, but I think that's still going to be, it benefits Excel, right? Generally. And a lot of the recommendations do anyway.
Management that this 2.0 is going to be nothing like the first Renewable Connect. That there's not going to be, it's going to be a way that Excel for sure makes money.
yeah,
In my experience with Rex, I think it's preferable to work with like a small vendor of renewable energy credits. And oftentimes like you can pick where they're coming from and you have a little bit more visibility into the Rex maybe than what Excel would give you. Again, it depends on price if things change in 2 or 3 years, but.
yeah, Recs are
Rex.
squishy. I was in city council for Collins. We bought a bunch of Recs and it turned out to be totally bogus.
Mm-hmm.
That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I think they're more legitimate now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd certainly rather see us investing money locally
Yeah.
in projects where we can say, okay, we're going to invest $20,000 or $100,000 and, put solar panels on whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's local and we know exactly what we're getting for them versus handing some rec people $18,000 and saying, let us know how it turns out. They just don't, we can do our own recs.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm saying if you have to bridge the gap.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Rex, yeah.
So the way I understand this is it's a lot of bullet points and numbers to try to convince you that you want to keep your Recs and you want to purchase this Excel program. I'm not sure if anybody else is seeing it that way, but that's kind of how it reads to me. And I don't like it. And I would not vote for going for this program. I would much prefer finding something similar to Oak Leaf or something like that to make up the gap where we actually are supporting more renewable energy on the grid. And
Definitely, I definitely agree.
Yes, and don't we not own the Rex for Oakleaf though? Also, just to.
that is correct. We do not. And I
They don't-
personally don't care.
They wouldn't give you like a certificate that says you purchase these and there's traceability.
It's, they can't because of the way that the solar goes through Excel. These guys get contracts from Excel. So Excel owns those recs so that Excel can claim that it's doing this renewable stuff and it's allowing these contracts for these solar companies to come on.
Interesting.
Yeah. which is why I don't like recs.
Great. And so this also maybe goes back to the community choice energy topic, which I know we're tabling for now, but that would help us have more say over where that energy is coming from, which I also feel is maybe something we would be more in favor of, just because Excel was not in favor of it generally, because they don't have control over that in the same way that they do with these programs.
Yeah, well, it would be a lot easier for us as a municipal town to say, we don't want Excel anymore. We want a different energy provider.
Yeah.
Whereas right now it's
Going to
difficult.
charge
to
us
do
a
that.
premium for renewable energy, we're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, we've been supporting this with CC4CA for years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my understanding that this year, there may be legislation
Mm-hmm.
to implement it, because the study's done.
Yeah.
I think the study generally was pretty positive. So I'm hoping there'll be something in this year's legislature that actually passes a bill that
Mm-hmm.
heads towards implementation.
Yeah, and we were waiting on some sort of statement from CC4CA to then give to the BOT to say, hey, will you officially support this as the town of Nederland?
Yeah, but we have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they're waiting on the legislature, the language in the legislature to determine what that really means. So we won't get that statement from them until more of those details are available. But going back to the gap analysis, which I think still gives us some good data on what this looks like. It seems like even though there are opportunities on the residential side, and we still have a couple programs that are going for that, focusing on the commercial and municipal opportunities is where we would best spend our time and energy, especially if we can get grant funding for, say, solar on our water treatment facility, or PACE programs that are doing some of that heavy lifting for us as well. But would love to know if that is your thoughts on that as well.
I agree.
Yeah, it sure looks like it. I'm wondering if there's any federal money still available.
On, do you mean on in general or on the commercial side?
You know, there's all this money going into renewable energy, and I don't know if it's the states taking that money from the Biden bill, and then the local affairs department is distributing it according to people who apply for it. That's,
I think that we're somewhere in that process of the state has the money and now the legislature is deciding how to distribute it to different entities and where that's gonna go. And then once they decide that, then we'll get notified, this is a grant that you can apply for, or this is a rebate you can get, or whatever that looks like.
okay.
Yes,
Hi,
it's being.
this is
Oh.
Patricia. I was just going to weigh in on the federal grant side of things.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've just been in and out tonight with my internet, so I apologize for not being here for the whole night. So there are literally hundreds of billions of dollars available for towns and municipalities for everything that we're talking about, and there is a process in which we can work with a coordinator at the state level and then within our region to apply for IRA money and IIJA money that can help the town meet, all of our renewable standard goals and help with increasing solar. And we don't have to wait for the legislature to do it. So I don't know what the capacity is like within the town or with Leah in terms of like looking into that, but I can send you the information to help figure all that stuff out. But literally it's more money than I've ever seen in my entire lifetime dedicated to conservation and renewable energy, and there's a ton of opportunity, and we have to apply for and spend the money I would say sooner rather than later.
We definitely want to be
Yes.
in that. Right?
Yep. Patricia, if you would, I do have some of that information through Boulder County, but I would love to see what you have just in case there's something that I don't have on my radar. And in addition, some IRA funds, as I understand it, can go towards staff as well to
Yes,
pay for some
absolutely.
projects.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're planning to go after some of that as well. I think that one for staff is due April 1st. So in the spring, but yeah, some of those other programs will be sooner. So maybe Patricia, you and I could connect individually as well.
Absolutely.
on
Yep. I can send you all the information and then connect you with the regional person. And when you think about money, add like 2 or 3 zeros to what you originally imagined in your budget. I'm not kidding. It's insane amounts of money. And this is our opportunity, I feel like, to really like look holistically at our infrastructure for Nederland and with the county. So
Yes, I think that's the tricky part too. And maybe you know how to navigate that, but it seems like the Colorado Energy Office is getting a lot of that, and some of it's going to Boulder County. And we are sort of at risk of being left out of that if Boulder County is getting a bigger chunk. Like somehow we need to position both the rural side and the Boulder County side so that we can get a chunk of that money.
yeah, I saw Will last week at a meeting and was talking to him about some of the ways in which the energy office is figuring out their grants. And he was saying that Colorado is kind of ahead of other states in the region in terms of applying. So I think we're in a good place and like they know what they're doing. We don't have to go through the energy office for this stuff either.
Right. So going back to Pi's gap analysis, just because they are going to ask us what was decided in this meeting, I just want to know what to tell them. So it sounds like we are going to still go for the 2025 goal, focus on commercial and municipal funding sources, and I mean, I can sort of ignore their recommendations for now, in general, but yeah, anything else that
Yeah,
maybe this is yeah, go ahead.
can we make a very strong request that when they do their calculations, they don't do them based on the recs that the town of Nederland owns, but they base them on the renewable energy that we are subscribed to? Because I just have found it difficult in the presentation they gave and this to really pull out like what is our actual gap, because he's giving us the gap of recs and I want a different gap, not what our rec gap is. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we did ask for that because when we made the goal, it was not rec based, and so I'd have to look back at their original presentation. I wonder if they had some of that in there, but they did kind of come back to rec. So we can circle back to that in our next meeting with them, and maybe they can give us more succinct data on what that gap looks like.
Yeah, because he's just got this 55% number in here for new municipal, and there's a note that that's because it's based on recs, and we know we don't own the recs of that Oak Leaf solar contract. So I'm just wondering what that 55% looks like if we do count the solar from Oak Leaf, even though we don't own the recs.
Yeah, we purposely went with Oakley.
Yeah.
Because they were available, we wanted to do it in spite of not keeping the recs.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the renewable energy, we didn't get the recs. That was an intentional decision.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think Melody's right, it skews the data. Because it doesn't really tell us what we really need to know. They're just talking recs. They're obsessed with recs, because that's how they're being judged.
Yep.
Yep, and we might not even get around that. I mean, this gap analysis, I don't know is necessarily, I mean, it's for our benefit, but it's in the lens of what Excel is providing. So there may be some limitations there, but I will see what data I can get from them for our use. If there's nothing else on this, I think we are on to my update. Is that right? Great. So, not a ton new from the last meeting, but on the Colorado car share front, we were pursuing the Community Accelerated Mobility Project. Colorado Car Share and Boulder County decided not to move forward with the joint application, mostly because it seemed like maybe Boulder County just didn't pursue it and Colorado Car Share lost interest. So I'm going to connect with Colorado Car Share individually and see how we might be able to still get the program up here without funding somehow. If there's a revenue opportunity for them, we may be able to get a car or two up here, either an EV or some other efficient all-wheel drive vehicle. So I will look into that more, but we did forego the grant application. I do have the IRA funds on here as well that we're going after very soon. There's of course, the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act, Styrofoam and plastic bag ban, which we already discussed. And Drive Clean Colorado also has offered some grant writing resources for us to go after maybe some collaborative grants. For one in particular is the Thriving Communities grant, which was also on our radar. So hopefully we'll get some grant funding help with that. I'm meeting with them next week. Matt Hannon from PACE will be here next month, or it looks like in a couple weeks, to do another walking tour. And so I'll talk with him too about where we might be able to get some more opportunities for the commercial side and see what resources are available through their programs. We kicked off the Solarize campaign through Solar United Neighbors, the rooftop solar campaign, and we did have 8 Nederland residents sign up for the program for this year. And I have that list too, so we'll be tracking where they heard of the program, see what our outreach was like for that. I wasn't able to make any of those events, but it sounds like some residents made it, which is great. And we're planning that for next year as well. It might look a little different than it did this year, maybe partnering with Denver. So more details about that. But I think it's awesome that we did get some members who are going to be part of that co-op campaign. And then we also received our silver designation for the Soul Smart program, which was put into place by Erica and a few others before I was in this role. So congrats to everyone who worked on that. And then we're going to go for gold. We just don't know what that entails quite yet. That is the end of my update. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will say as far as the car share thing, if we're talking about a minimal amount of funding to partner with the grant, I'd advocate for using some of this, couple thousand that we have in the C&D fund. I wanted to say R&D and I knew that wasn't it. C&D fund, to support something like that. So just because we don't necessarily have a particular place for funding, I wouldn't rule out not having funding. And also thank you for your hard work.
Thanks. And it sounded like too, some of that revenue could potentially go towards staff or the full-time sustainability coordinator. I don't know if that is maybe not the time to talk about that, but I know that was maybe a potential use for those funds as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, maybe if I could, I realize this isn't the report, but maybe I can talk a little bit about the finance stuff.
I think we're on to other items now.
Let's do it. So, sad news, we cannot get full-time sustainability coordinator into the 2024 budget. It's in pretty rough shape. It's getting rougher by the minute. Leah, interesting development today, though, is that I did receive confirmation from Boulder County that we could do the pooled approach where Nederland, Lyons, Ward, Jamestown all gives up their 15,000 and funds a peak-to-peak wide coordinator. It doesn't sound like, Leah and I had talked a little bit like, could it be a Boulder County employee? And unfortunately, their budget's already set. So it'd really be like all of us going in and then one of us becomes like the fiscal agent of sort who pays out the benefits. I called Lyons and they had not decided how they wanted to commit their 15,000 yet, which was a good sign. And I just said, put this in your mind. And so might be able to do it that way. It may have to take a while. I might not be able to get it so close to the new fiscal year, but Lyons, even if we got Lyons, that's an up in hours. You'd have to be very careful about how to spend someone's time. I think the thought is everything they would have to do would have this really regional approach. I don't think it would be possible for a sustainability coordinator to do a little project for Lyons and a little project for Ned and a little project for Ward. That would be really hard. They'd have to have staff to back them up. But if they did really more of that overarching, we're Boulder County and this person's representing all of the mountain's interests when it comes to sustainability, that'd be pretty cool. So I definitely want to explore that more. As Leah said, definitely there's an opportunity to fund. And so here's what I'm proposing to the Board of Trustees. The C&D program is incredible, but staff don't have the capacity to run it. We never have had the capacity to run it. So what happens is we're in essence just taking people's money. Like we charge them, no one follows up, no one makes sure they understand the process. And so they either don't file for it or they don't care enough to file for it. So we're just seeing a possibility of booking it. I talked to Attorney Madsen though, and there's a possibility to just not do a C&D and just charge a straight sustainability fee. Whether it's a flat pay fee or it's a percentage of your permit, charge a sustainability fee, and that becomes a revenue stream for SAP to operate out of, whether you use to pay it for your sustainability coordinator, for other options. And so my recommendation is actually a third option to the board, which is charge a sustainability fee for all permits. So staff has a revenue stream. And if someone's really passionate about wanting to divert their construction materials, which we hope they are, they can get back up to 50% of their permit fee. And permit fees typically run in the thousands. So if you're looking at a large scale project that you're gonna have to divert materials for. So that still allows them the space to get money back. It's just not in a deposit-based program. And it would really be happening kind of a one-time off. So if the board approves that, that would be a great new opportunity for SAB. We'd really have to narrow in on, does the fee make sense or does the percentage? So we'll probably want to talk about that a bit more with this group. But I'm kind of hopeful that they agree to that as a new source of revenue. And then of course, the other source of revenue, which the board could consider kind of earmarking for SAP support, is fees for EV. The problem is we ended up letting go of ChargePoint a while ago, so we don't really have accurate data. So I have no idea what the revenue could be. But my recommendation to the board is charging like Boulder and Longmont, Louisville, where they do $1 an hour. They don't do it. It's just a flat fee for time. And then Boulder actually kicks it up to $250 after 2 hours. That's my recommendation, and that could be yet another funding source. So I think the downfall is that we're really looking at, another year of part-time sustainability coordinator. If I can get Lyons on board, maybe at least an increase in hours, or at least an increase in pay, and maybe not quite an increase in hours, but starting to balance that out, with a lot of emphasis going into securing the revenue next year, and then hopefully 2025. We can make it happen. And the board did adopt in their strategic plan that they want to try to figure out the funding. So if mid-year we can figure out how to secure funding, because some of these grants that pay for staff time come online, then of course we'd be very happy to convert that to full-time, but just aren't in the space right now. So that's really, so I'm meeting with the board tomorrow night if anyone wants to listen in. It is a work session, so they're not taking public comment, but if you're curious about those conversations, they kind of happen in the middle of the meeting.
So is, out of curiosity, you said ProSat has good funding.
They get the Conservation Trust Fund every year, which is the lottery money. So town staff don't, it's our kind of philosophy and policy that we don't have free reign of that money. So ProSab helps, Nikki brings a proposal of how she wants to spend the money, but it's $15,000 minimum, but like last year was 27,000. And then they also oversee the Eldora money from when Eldora rented the Barker parking lot, and they have the Tungsten Village money. So ProSab altogether has about, in those two funds together, has about 145,000 that they can
Go for $1 million grant.
recommend a $1 million grant for. Where SAB, you're scraping for barely anything, and the match that you use for Leah comes out of just kind of town budget.
Yeah.
So they got the parking lot money just because of this.
Earmarked for parks, recreation, open space.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think these are two ways where it would be the year of like figuring out how much revenue, but then we'd want to dedicate these funds to be ones where staff don't have the ability to spend them. They have to come for your approval and we have to ask you, or you would dictate to us how you want to spend them. I'd like to see SAB have some of those line items.
Is the disposable bag fee, is that going right into the SAB budget since it technically is for like the management of
Yeah.
zero waste too?
So SAB has, we dump it all into what we call it as just zero waste line item that sits within the Parks Department. Like eventually we'd want to like pull it out so it was actually its own department, but for now, yeah, all of
We
this
have a
revenue would just
department
dump.
head officially, maybe?
Huh? You would have, so we call them division heads when they're departments of one. But it would be like the clerk or the planner who's just one person overseeing a full department. And the thought was when we could finally bring the sustainability coordinator online, they would report to the town administrator and not fall under like a public works team because they're just a little bit more overarching than that. But yeah, I mean, so right now it's just gonna all dump to these zero waste line items and that will help us understand for 2025 how much between EV, the bag fee, thank you for that, the bag fee, and then a sustainability fund, if you support that, how much that could bring in for SAB, for not only the position, but hopefully projects as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I need to remember to bring up the bag fee tomorrow. I did not put it in my slides.
Well, one of
Thank you,
the
Maggie.
first line is administrative costs with developing and
Yeah.
implementing the bag
Yeah.
fee, so that would be staff, I mean,
Yeah.
that's staff sustainability time.
Staff
as long as
time.
you can trace it back to that.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping we can get, Lee and I were talking about all the different ways we could get creative here. And, I know, we don't have the capacity to bring on new staff, but if it did, like I remember when I was like the planner, the sustainability coordinator, I was getting real creative. Like, I think there may be more opportunities that if we see, a part-time need, is it possible to mash them up together to be able to convert, pay adequately, and then offer the benefits?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a long time in the making, and I feel like every year we sadly fall short, and it's not been the most fun to always fall short on this position.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Yeah,
It was a
because
big-
it was something that was identified 10 years ago as a needed full-time position
Yeah.
in town.
It was a big thing to get the email today, though, that was like, feel free, but now I gotta figure out like, who do I call? Like, I don't know who in Ward oversees, and they don't often go for their 15,000.
Yeah.
Like, who am I calling who typically goes for their 15,000? But if we can
Ask
get all
Cyn-
five.
Ask
meetings-
Cynthia who the ward person
Okay.
is, because Cynthia's gonna know who's running that.
Okay,
There's a Gold Hill group.
right, I do know the Gold Hill group.
Yep.
And
Jamestown?
do you know a Jamestown? I mean, I know the Health and Human Services Jamestown person, maybe she will know.
Maybe.
I mean, that's, if five communities could all pool their 15,000.
They could, and I'm not like totally against it. My only worry about it is 5 years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we still gonna all be using our 15,000 grant money for sustainability projects to fund staff? And I'd really like to move away
Yeah.
from our grant funding because this is our county designated sustainability funding, this $15,000 grant every year. That comes from the 1% tax we all pay on everything, right?
Right. Well, it does make me wonder
So-
though, if teaming up with Lions, like I think it's so close to the deadline for those funds anyways, but
Yeah.
if Lions was willing to team up, I would be interested to see how, if you all were okay with it,
Like
how
a
1
50-50.
year of a Lions, Netherland 50-50 split
Mhm.
would work. And Leah and I talked a bit about, like, there needs to be grounded with some staff members. Luckily, Kim Mitchell from Lions is already doing their sustainability stuff. And so
Mhm.
she would just continue to be their staff member to support. But I think it would be interesting to see, does it work? Is it a model that could work
Yeah.
if we struggled again in 2025? I
Mhm.
mean, the hope is next year is the year of stabilization, as we call it. We're doing kind of bare bones budgets, we're finishing our projects, and we're focusing a pretty intense effort on revenue. Just really, without increasing taxes, how can we just be creative with what we already have and try to, you know, charge for EV chargers?
Yeah.
Most municipalities are not letting you charge for free, but people have been charging for free for a long time.
Well, and regarding just general impact on town budget is the only reason I asked this question, because it's not sustainability related, but where is paid parking at in the realms of bringing in revenue for
So
town?
it's on my list. I've got 5 recommendations. So paid parking needed a municipal code change. We realized that we can't be unfair where we're making private owners run through a special review use, then town was just gonna go in and do it. So we're changing code to allow it. That should be in place hopefully in December, which gives us the space to get started. And we estimate a potential revenue of $138,000 annually for paid
Okay.
parking. We're also proposing speed cameras.
Okay.
How
And,
y'all
and
feel
so
about that?
is that revenue in your current budget calculations when you're saying?
So it actually is, and we're still a negative 300,000.
Okay.
And so the speed camera is $30,000 a month. And so we already just operating off the assumption that the board's gonna tell us yes.
Yeah.
If the board tells us no, that takes that negative 300,000 and it drops it lower and lower and
Yeah.
lower. And so deeper into the negative. And
Yeah.
so it's in our best interest to give these a shot for sure.
Yeah.
And see, I mean, these are estimates, see what kind of revenue. We also talk about.
Yeah, we never know what sales tax is gonna end up being next summer. I mean.
We have no
We
idea.
don't know.
So, but what's interesting is we actually budgeted high for sales tax and we're trending in line. So we're still seeing an increase, but not as high as we budgeted. We assume we were gonna bring in significantly more in sales tax than we actually did this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all a gamble. But the cool thing about the speed camera specifically is if it's not working and we're not seeing the revenue and we're paying more than the revenue, the company I'm recommending we work with is actually willing to reassess this. And so it's not like we're stuck for life where we have to pay and we're not bringing in anything. It just means maybe the location is bad. Let's do some more studies. Let's assess where else we could go. But now that Boulder County's here, if you haven't gotten a ticket yet, you might, I don't know, they're writing tickets left and right. I mean, we're getting tons of revenue coming from Boulder County in there, but that's not how we want to utilize our officers' time. We'd love for them to do other things, but they are generating revenue through speeding tickets.
Okay.
Would the cameras be limited to town roads though, and not CDOT right of way?
We could put them on the highway, so we could put them
Okay.
on the entrance of, you know, coming up from Boulder Canyon. And
Yeah,
then we're recommending one mobile camera that could just kind of get circulated through town.
that makes it easier,
coming
not like on the.
Into town from that Eldora turnoff.
Right, so that's where the mobile one comes in handy, because then if the mobile one's demonstrating that it's generating enough tickets, like if we parked it there, then it makes sense to then install them there.
Mhm.
You know, obviously not trying to be the speed trap of America where you get it from every angle, but let's be real, that 25, 35, 45, like right there on really both sides of town is where everyone's speeding, so
Mhm.
might as well make the most of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, this is us getting creative. And then of course, the board through the comprehensive plan is focusing on the downtown corridor as their kind of number one focus is how do you really work on economic development and finally focus on, you know, ways to kind of breathe life into our downtown so that people can park, can stay, can spend their money. And again, not trying to bring in more tourists, but if they're already here and they want to, let's give them the means to do so and to spend
Yeah.
their money. So that's kind of the year we're heading into, is really revenue focused without harming the town from a tourism overload at the same
Mhm.
time.
So basically you're saying we're in deficit area?
That's the current, I mean, we budget in the negative every year. This is probably and we rarely ever end up in the negative because we're short-staffed. We're not short-staffed anymore. That's gone. Staff just got a wage increase to livable wages. So that was a big thing. And that's of course a lot of the driving factor here. But this is probably the lowest, the deepest into the negative we've budgeted. And it's actually probably true reality. we can't figure out how to kind of truly offset that revenue, it is likely for the first time in a long time, we'll budget into negative and we'll end in the negative.
Mm-hmm.
So the board really is gonna have to make some hard decisions throughout this budget work session cycle, is if they're ready. You know, it's something we talked about when I brought forward those staff increases. It was like, this will put you in the negative. I didn't lie to anyone.
Yeah,
And now here's the reality.
but they need that. They need to be at a living
Yeah,
wage.
and so
That's
we're not even-
sustainable too.
Right, we're not even at competitive wage. We're
Yeah.
at the bare minimum of
Yeah.
what is competitive wage.
Yeah.
So we knew this was coming, but when you then have to sit down and finally adopt a budget like that, I do know that that's a hard decision for boards to have to make. And the only way to reverse that is to start making substantial cuts, whether that's staffing cuts or that's large scale projects, which we're not even bringing that many projects for.
No, there's not.
We're keeping the projects that need to like keep the water plant running. Like, we're not bringing a lot of these big, huge projects online. We're really just trying to bare bones. And so it would probably, I hate to say it, have to come in the form of like layoffs of staff
Mm-hmm.
to get it back into maybe a even close to break even point.
Well, it sounds like from what we heard earlier, there's tons of money for renewables.
Yeah,
And we want to try to get heating water, drinking water off of natural gas. If we get federal funding to cover that,
Mm-hmm.
we could have a really positive budgetary impact.
yeah, I mean, really anywhere we can turn, you know, the year of stabilization is a bit of just like, also, let's just finish the projects we have, but we're,
Sure.
you know, very open to exploring grant, and that's a part of the revenue, actually. There's a whole section in the strategic plan that talks about grant revenue funding. Staffing capacity is a huge problem. It's like,
Yeah.
grants come, but it's like, I don't even have time to pursue that. So really trying to figure out how can we get better at creating the space so we're not rushing last minute for them. And we also can submit really solid grant applications. But we did, in an effort to better the budget, pulled out the funding for the grant writer because just
Okay.
didn't have it. So if anyone wants to write grants, we're here for it. But yeah, it will be a very interesting session tomorrow night. It starts with a meeting with a meet and greet with Asa Merriam, who's our new sergeant. He's the Boulder County Sheriff's Department sergeant who serves as our marshal of sorts. So Asa will be here tomorrow from 5 to 7 in this room for meet and greet, and then we'll all cluster around this table and talk budget after that.
Okay.
Fun.
Is it time for other business?
That was my
Yeah.
other business.
Yeah.
That's you.
You got one?
That was me.
I have one. Well, you know, we have the issue of RTD eco-pads on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a letter to the editor in the ear down here slamming it. Saying it was a bad idea. People should vote against it. Ridership doesn't justify it. Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, part of it is COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, COVID really whacked people using public
Ridership, yeah.
transportation. But I think it's, you know, it's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Ridership's coming back. And it's a great program, especially for low-income people. And I'd hate to see it go away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way for people who own property to subsidize people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big deal
Yeah.
in terms of property tax.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing is, I mean, I think SAB should write a letter to the editor and just say, this is a really important program. It's a bargain. It's not only environmentally sound, but it really helps low-income folks.
Mm-hmm.
Just endorse voting for it.
Has the BOT taken a stance on this ballot issue?
So the BOT did vote on approval of a resolution in support of it.
So we are allowed to then support it, right? Because the
It's a
town,
little tricky because
because the town supports it?
you can basically just indicate that the town adopted the I'll send the resolution to you all. The town adopted the resolution, but Fair Campaign Practices Act prohibits us from like pushing for it, advocating for it. We can just basically make like concrete statements. As individuals, you can.
Yeah, you
cannot
can write in
utilize-
as Alan Act,
Yeah,
but you
well.
can't write in as SAB member
Exactly.
Okay.
and say it all.
You could say Alan you're a member of SAB, but this is not on behalf of SAB, because then it becomes a Fair Campaign Practices Act
Yeah,
issue.
that was my
So
question.
the BOT has had to tread lightly here.
Cause I remember we did that for the sustainability tax at some point. Had to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where.
Well, I just figure, we're an advisory board, we're not elected officials, and we're not
You're
government-
appointed officials though.
well, we're not government employees either.
No, but you're an appointed
You're
governmental volunteer.
I'll just write it as me.
Netherland resident. And I'll support you. And if Barb posts on Facebook, I'll share it.
Okay.
Do we know how much I can't remember if I read this, how much the passes are annually per person?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, I know when our company does them, we just got our EcoPass renewal and we pay like $20 a year per
Mhm.
person for their EcoPass. And if I were to go get an EcoPass of my own, it's $100 a month.
Yeah,
I was-
it was $1,000.
I think it's about
Individual.
$150 a month. Sounds right.
Yeah.
For
It's
being on
ridiculous
your own.
how much cheaper an EcoPass is, like even for all the people who
Yeah.
don't take advantage of it,
Mhm.
for those low income people to lose that benefit
Mhm.
could potentially be like a substantial change in their transportation.
Definitely. Well, and even just when I was like considering buying houses and where I was gonna live, there was a house in Central City I was looking at and a house in Nederland. And I did the calculations of how much gas it was gonna cost me to drive to Central City every day. And the tax that I'm paying for RTD is far, far less than the amount that it was gonna cost me. And it was like all these services we get that we're taxed for in Boulder County, they really do make a difference. They really do make it easier to live up here on a day-to-day, how much $10 is in your pocket kind of way. And it matters. So I'm in full support of the EcoPass program. It's amazing. All of our teenagers can go hang out in Boulder whenever they want,
It's a huge benefit.
come back up, not spend, a ton of gas. Right?
And it seems like RTD is putting a lot of money into consistency too, like the issues with missed buses and not having staff. Like it seems like they've prioritized that over the last year. So it's not as much of a problem as it used to be.
Yeah.
Which I think made ridership go down because people would be afraid that they'd get to Boulder and have no bus home.
That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Hiring people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And now it's all, I don't know, Netherlands is the same way. It's all on your phone, your EcoPass.
Not yet.
Working on it.
I'm in the midst of it.
Yeah, so, yeah, the process is clunky and the way they rolled it out was for businesses, not for municipalities. So
Yeah.
we've run into a lot of barriers. We're working on kind of a one pager that we're gonna mail everyone that kind of tells you what to do. We're gonna change the library on how to actually help people navigate the system. But it's painful. It's painful to watch Karina try to navigate it every time.
It's not, yeah. I went through it last week.
Well, and I think it's also helpful to every once in a while. I don't know if it's like a quarterly thing that Peter could post of like, hey, just a reminder, if you live in the district, you get a free bus pass.
Yeah.
Because I still talk to people all the time that have no idea they get one living
Yeah.
here.
It's true.
I'm like, yeah, you can go to the airport for free whenever you fly out of this state. Like, you don't need to park your car, you don't need to pay for parking, you bus down, it's all free. So just reminding people that it's
Yeah.
even available could help those ridership numbers.
Yeah, we hope to be able to get more information from RTD to make it a bit more seamless, but it's just really clunky right now.
Mhm.
And as soon as we do, we'll like blast it. But right now it's like, we're almost hesitant to be like, please don't even come in because we're struggling on our own. And so it's,
Uh-huh.
but Karina probably sees 5 to 10 people a day. Being like, I
Wow.
need to change my EcoPass.
Wow.
Yeah, and like it's so clunky, like she sometimes has to log in for them to try to get it done. It's just not, it's a lot of her time. So we'd love to train the library. We can say, why don't you head over to the library and they'll
Cool.
help you out.
Yeah.
I will hold off then on calling the town and asking, why
Sure, you
isn't
can
my RTD pass working? Even though I registered and logged in and created an account and all those things, so. I will.
How long ago did you
I'll
do
just
that?
call RTD directly and figure it out. And in the meantime, I have my EcoPass. But yes, it's not a seamless process.
Has to go in like one at a time and approve them. It's not like that, like she can go in and like all 7 of us approve, and she does them like a mass approval. She has to go in, and it doesn't alert her, Patricia, like this, maybe you, it doesn't alert her when someone's done it. So then she has to like go searching. It's
Oh, no, that's awful.
it's awful.
You have to, yeah, they have to like tell you when they set up their account.
So I.
Yeah, I've had my account for like 10 years.
Of employees can do that really easily,
No,
but
we
a town,
I can't.
With
No?
I can only, I'm worth thousands of accounts, and I can't even like 10.
Even they have to set up their account and then tell me the email they used to set up
Yes.
their account, and then I have
Really?
to go into the system and do it.
Yeah,
again.
Patricia, you might want to tell
Maybe I should talk with them.
Karina, you should, to come meet with Karina. And Patricia, you might want to call Karina, because if she knows that you're maybe just waiting in some sort of lost foreign queue out there, just out of,
Might be able
she
to.
might be able
find
to
you.
quickly go in and just approve.
Maybe I
Yeah,
should.
because I was talking to somebody else in town my boyfriend, and he's like, oh, you should have got notification that it was approved. And I was like, no, I never did. So I just went in, downloaded the app and did all the stuff. But I'm like, I'm in this like in between. So
Yeah.
I will just call Karina. But I was like, I didn't want to have to do that. I was thinking it would happen magically on its own.
Where they are in the world when they just go out there. It's really.
And then I'm like, I mean, I've had the same email address for a long time, so it didn't go to a different address. And it was like, all this stuff. I lived in Old Town, da 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 da. So anyway, I will call. I'll just give her a call. Thank you.
Been giving them a really hard time, and then finally they admitted to her that they didn't really think about the municipal side, because Nederland and Lions are the only ones who have it. So they didn't really think about us when rolling this thing out.
Yeah, no, we're never the
And
priority.
she told me that, I was like, you gotta be, and they still don't really know quite what to do for us. So it's just
Wow.
like, figure it out. But yes, do you want?
Connect me, because
Yes,
maybe I can like come to the library for 3 hours and sit with her, and if people like have open office hours for EcoPass. Because what you have to do is like, you have to give the coordinator your email, they have to type it into the website to add you. And then they have to get notified that you set up your account, and then they have to issue your pass. So there's like a back and forth thing, and I can't even imagine with thousands of people. But I'm happy to help, because I have gone through the process a couple times now.
So you handle the back end stuff.
I'm my company's EcoPass coordinator, yeah, so I probably have the same platform she does.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That doesn't make any logical sense.
No, and it's completely disconnected from the previous EcoPass program.
Yeah,
Like your
yeah.
riders did not automatically.
It's a whole new
enter,
system.
You're like starting over, yeah.
Are seniors separate from EcoPass?
So we do 3 types. We have the youth, regular, and then discount, which is individuals who are born prior to 1965, or individuals who provide like a disability, like demonstration of a disability.
And the new process, what is it, My Ride RTD or whatever it's called, everybody 19 years and under is free.
That's great.
So they don't even need an EcoPass, they're just free.
Little weird though, because we were just talking today about like, how does it catch our boundaries? Because Karina's like, you can literally put in whatever address you want and it processes an EcoPass. So like, well, that seems odd. There's issues.
Wonder if they're relying on the coordinators to do that.
And how do they verify age too, to verify that your free account, you're actually
Right, it's
under
Who
18?
knows? I mean, you could just make it up.
Right.
That's what I was
You don't have to
thinking.
bring anything to us anymore. Like, we don't have to take your picture. We don't have to see your ID. I mean, there might be more EcoPasses than they're anticipating. Or more young ones.
Well, she would catch it, because the step is the rider has to reach out to the town to say, please issue me my EcoPass. And so I think the town would then have to verify like age, address, because they have the power to issue the pass.
Yeah.
Which puts the onus on the town and not necessarily RTD to like run it through.
We only get $10,000 to execute this project, which is.
Yeah, it's not, that goes quick.
Remember, lady to pay for a full-time staff member, who's also a sustainability coordinator. Leah, that's how we'll do it. EcoPasses and sustainability, it all goes hand in hand.
Just stay home.
That matchup, Leo, but.
Wow. Okay. Any other items? Well, hearing nothing, I will say thank you all for joining another great staff meeting.
And just remember, the next staff meeting is a week later.
And the next meeting is the 5th Thursday of November, right?
November 30th, yeah.
Yes.
Unless you want to meet on Thanksgiving. which I
Nope.
don't think you ever did.
So thanks all for joining us, and we'll adjourn at 8:47 PM right there in that 2-hour mark.
Incredible. Hi, those of you online.
Thank you.